guys, welcome to The Guest. This is a program where we interview celebrities and people that have something important that you would want to hear. Today I have on the show Mr. Iyke Okoro. Good afternoon, sir. How are you doing?
Good afternoon to you. How are you doing today? I'm
fine. So Mr. Iyke is an actor, a producer, and a script writer. Am I right? Or you would rather introduce yourself?
I'm many more. I mean, I wear so many caps. I'm an actor, a producer, a writer, an author.
Wow.
Anything that has to do with creativity, I'm there. So
I think you are in a very good position to answer this question. Recently, we're seeing Nollywood churn out a lot of content, a lot of movies, and a lot of people still have said that it's not enough, considering that we are yet to get a major international nomination in terms of nominations for the Oscars. So to you, what makes a good film?
Well, there are basic elements to a good film. Number one, the story.
Okay.
Because fundamental to a good story, seminal to having a good story is that to a good film rather, is that you must have a good story.
Okay.
Because what people really gather to watch in cinemas and all that is the storyline. Every other thing you put around it is just the clothing, is just the effects you put around that story. So I would say number one, a good story. Now, if you get a good story, there's what we call treatment. So you can have a good story, but if it's not well treated, which means in terms of now breaking that story down into a cinema, something that people can sit down and watch, it has to be dramatic. So you have a good story, then the treatment of that story has to be nice. You understand? So the technical aspect of because yes, at the end of the day, you have a good story, you do a good treatment for that story, for actors to, creating, breaking into dialogues and all that. But you need to have a good technical team. Because you can have a good story, you can have a good treatment for that story, but if the technical aspect is not good enough, it won't come out well. There's what we call look and feel when it comes to creativity. So people would see something, it has to, catch the eyes first. It has to appeal to the eyes first.
Yes.
In fact, you can even have a not so good story, but if you can really come to the area of technical and have something very nice, you pull it off. So to answer your question, a good story, good treatment for that story, and have good technical base, for that set or for that production.
So where does the director comes in all of this?
Beautiful question, because a good director, all these elements, if they're not in place, you will not see the expertise of the director. Yeah, because if you don't have a good story, if the story is not well treated, and if you don't have good equipment, the director will come there, his expertise will not come out.
So as a director, if I'm coming to you to make a film and I'm paying you well, but you don't see that this story is something that you want to tell, you won't work on that project.
I've seen directors in my career who, even if you mention the big fee you're going to pay them, they ask you for the story first. They want to go home with the story, study the story, read it. If it doesn't appeal to them, no matter how much, because you have to understand that every director is building a profile.
Yes, yes.
And like we say in the entertainment world, you are as good as your last job.
Yes.
You don't want to decrease, you want to increase in whatever you do. So a good director that knows his onions will ask you for the story. He goes home to study it before he even begin to bother about the money. Yeah, the money is good. It's good to have good money, but they want to know whether that story will be a good leverage for their talent, for their gift, for their expertise.
So in other words, we need to tell more good stories in Nollywood.
There's this thing that goes on in the industry. I hear people talk about Yoruba films. And there's a debate around how Yoruba films they have depth.
In terms of the story.
And I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, because the storyline, first they get a good story first. Then the treatment is deep. It's very deep. which is what I think should be across board in Nollywood. Do you understand? So the thing is, a good story is basic.
Okay.
It's like I'm sounding like, because the truth is, it starts from there.
Is there a particular kind of story you feel we are not properly telling? That's why we are not really getting to the forefront in the entire global movie industry.
I love this question, and I've really been itching to answer this question. So the thing is, there's something called indigenous stories.
Okay.
You are telling stories, especially because we are playing in the international field. I mean, the world is a global village, like we know. So, see, whatever you do in any corner of the world goes viral because of technology. So the thing is, to answer that question, we need to appeal to people to go to our mamas and papas in the villages. I mean, they are repertoires of not as an inform. There are stories they will tell you.
That's true.
All you need to do is
this is true.
And they want to do it for free.
Yes.
I'm telling you, this is. Now, the thing is,
yes.
You cannot beat an American by trying to shoot movies or their stories that are like theirs. So what really will move an American is when he sees you tell your own indigenous stories. You talk about comedy and all of that. Even the comedies that I talked about, when we go dig into those funny things that happen in our own environment and tell those things, you see that American. So the template should be that we have, one thing about stories, we cannot exhaust stories. You know why? Go to the village, get a grandpa, get a grandma, sit them down. You understand? And they will tell you, if you are the one that's okay, I will come for more.
Yes.
Because really, what are stories?
Yes.
What are stories? As long as human beings are alive, things happen to them. And a story is like a seed. If somebody tells you just a few lines of something that happened, you can now expand it. Of course, the creativity of writing and all that, you now put some flesh, some onions, and all that, just to make it more appealing as a story. But there is a nucleus of that thing. So the thing is, for me, what you will tell that will really appeal to the world, and that's what will catch their attention, is our own indigenous stories. And we are so.
We have a lot to tell.
We have ethnic groups in this country.
Yes.
Go in, just meet them. Research.
Yes.
And the research is just meet all these, our papas and mamas, and just ask them. They will tell you for free.
Yes.
So really, what I'm trying to say is that let's tell our own stories.
What you just said made me remember something. There's a story that my grandma told me one time. That story can actually serve as a sci-fi.
Thank you.
Because if you listen to the story, imagine it being an animation or even a science fiction. It would be very interesting. Yes, I think we should really go back to our roots, because I remember then in the evening my grandma would just gather us together and she tells us like nice interesting story within the storybooks. She just tells us like some interesting stories, and they are still up here and they're really interesting. It was nice having this conversation with you. There are like 1,000,001 things I can keep going on and on. There are lots of questions I still want to ask you, but because of our time, so we'll just end it here. It was really nice having you here.
Thank you so much. I love your set, by the way.
Thank you
it's a
very
good
much,
one. And I love the whole, I just love what you're doing here.
Thank
Beautiful.
you, sir. We really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
We just had a conversation with Mr. Iyke Okoro. He's a Nollywood filmmaker, producer, and director. And this is where we draw the curtain for today's episode. I will be back next week with another guest, so make sure you keep it dates. My name is Ahina Atta. It was really nice doing this with you. Let's do this again next time. Until then, keep watching Aforevo TV. This is The Guest.